Jen. I think the last time I saw you, we were in Washington, D.C. together.
I think so. And I was very, very pleased to see that after what drama went down with BNC, that it righted itself by putting you in the executive director position. Like, because there was a period of time where I think it was a little unknown what was going to happen there with that. And I was so pleased to see that you took over. And I just wanted you to talk a little bit about like what the mission is of the organization, what it's looking like how it's evolved, and where it is right now.
Well, the mission for Brand New Congress has not changed. I was one of the first candidates that Brand New Congress was part of the slate when I ran in 2018. And so the mission to train and support progressive candidates to run across America, that has not changed. And so what we are going to do is that exact same thing. When we talk about the polarization of American politics, where it is the right versus left, it's the red versus the blue, and the working people and the people that when we ran, we sought to represent are just being left behind. People are exhausted. I've heard that word more than once. They're just exhausted, and they need some champions, and they need some organizations to help champion some champions. And so that's our mission. That's what we've been doing, and that's what we're going to continue to do. So thank you so much for inviting me on and for being glad to see me at the helm of leadership. There's so much work to be done in the progressive space. It's just so much work to be done. And one thing about progressives, we're all very passionate. We believe in what we're doing. We believe in the mission. We believe in our values and what needs to happen. And so whenever conflicts occur, I always go back to that. It is because we are so passionate that things happen. And what we cannot allow is that when anything happens in any progressive camp, that we are not eating one another up, that we are extending grace, we're extending our wisdom and our patience and what we need in this country with one another. Because one thing that I have seen, whether it has been between the Democrats and the progressives, the Democrats and Republicans, yada, 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 we tend to eat one another up. And we've got to stop doing that so we can get our country back straight, and we not be in the fight together, but we be a part of the fight against those who seek to take away our right to vote, our right to eat, our right to clean water, our right to clean air, and the list goes on and on and on and on.
Yeah.
That was a long way to say, hey, Jen.
No, but one of the things that I remember we had talked about when we were in DC was that Brand New Congress had decided that it had taken on so many candidates. It was going to have a smaller slate. It was going to focus on fewer candidates. But then it seemed to do it again and have like this huge slate of candidates. So where are you now in terms of like how many candidates do you have going in, so far for 22?
Okay. What I cannot address is what has happened before. I wasn't a part of those conversations. I wasn't a part of the decision making. So I don't second guess what the decision makers decided. What we're doing right now is to seek to have representation or candidates on the slate that are diverse, that are across America, that speak for the working people, and of course speak for progressive values such as Medicare for all, criminal justice reform, climate change, those type of issues. We're going to have a smaller slate. That is the goal, because we want to be more laser focused and to be an organization that builds our candidates. Our candidates, progressive candidates, they need to be recognized across the nation. And so we want to do that. I want to have, moving the organization forward is that we tell the candidate story. If you were a part of the slate, then your story should be told, not just anything else, but the candidate story needs to be told, because running in Florida, someone in Washington needs to know who that candidate in Florida is, because when you go to Congress, the people in that district may elect you to office, but your vote, when you cast it, it affects every American across the country. So we want our candidates to be nationally known. And so we're going to tell their stories. And we have over a year to do that. So we've started rolling out some candidates. We had an announcement today of Angelica in California 30. I may have missed that. California 30 is right. We had Sherman in California 29 2 days ago. Nina Turner joined our slate. And so we are rolling out candidates, and you will see that in the upcoming weeks. Now, I'm not going to tell you who they are, Jen, so don't even ask.
No, I wouldn't ask you who they are. But I'm on the board. Ava Putsova had asked me to be on the board for Catch Fire, and so we have started rolling out slates of candidates and doing endorsements and stuff like that. But so I wouldn't ask you.
I'm just teasing.
Who your people are. But obviously, Nina is kind of a give me. Like that's kind of a no brainer right there. There probably wasn't much thought put into that.
Well, there's thought in everyone.
No, I mean, she's just so obvious. She's so obvious.
Nina, well, when you look at what's going on in campaigns today, it's Nina Turner. It is the most, it's happening this year. It's early vote starts in a few weeks. The rest of the campaigns are going to be in 2022. Yeah. So the seat that we can gain for progressive seat is in Ohio 10 right now. So it's the one that has the most momentum going.
Right.
Speaking with Adrienne Bell, Executive Director of Brand New Congress, there's been a lot of pushback on a lot of these organizations. Justice Democrats come to mind. But Brand New Congress has done a very good job of maintaining that sort of, neutrality position of we're really here to help candidates. We're trying to better ourselves every year. We're not trying to be an establishment arm extension, if you will, of the Democratic Party. We obviously want to help Democrats win, but I do think that having the reputation that you are an organization that truly is trying to change the way DC politics operates is what separates yourself from the other organizations as of right now. Would you say that that's a fair assessment?
I would. I would not say anything against any of the other organizations. There is enough room for all of us. Mm-hmm. It is hard running as a progressive in areas that are outside of California, New York. Florida is a tough state. Florida is a lot like Texas. We have a lot of progressives who live here, but we have a lot of conservative leadership. And so the need for organizations to help support progressive candidates, it is great. And it is great to have organizations such as, just say Moms in Office that support mothers who are running for office. Yes. My mind just went blank, but supporting veterans who are running for office, supporting progressives that are running for office. We could have 50 plus progressive organizations, Democracy for America. We need them. We absolutely need them because progressive candidates need help. And so I will not go against any other progressive organization or pretend as though there is only room for a few, because that's absolutely not true. There is room for more. And if there are others out there that want to start progressive organizations to help progressive candidates win, please do so.
Yeah, there's definitely an upward trajectory that I've noticed. And I know people say, well, it's not that significant. AOC wins in 18, Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman win in 20. Who's to say you're not going to have 3 new congressional members come in 2022? Because I think every election cycle, you learn something new about the way the sausage is made. Now, obviously, when you and Jen were candidates, I was there, and there were, a litany of different groups that came in. Obviously, was very intrigued by Fidel and everything he talked about as far as MMT was concerned, modern monetary theory. Is there a sort of like a concrete strategy, maybe more of a fluid strategy, as far as the types of issues that you believe that candidates really need to be focusing on? I mean, obviously Medicare for all is a given, I would think, but there are probably a lot of others that you guys have found are what most candidates should be focusing on. Is that something that you guys have, currently undertaken?
Well, when you just think about the issues that Americans are facing, those issues are the popular issues that progressives talk about, the need to raise the minimum wage. I just don't know in any city, in any state, where you really feel comfortable making $7.25 an hour. Or if you're a tipped worker, if you make $2.13 an hour, that, hey, I can really take care of my family. I don't think anyone's feeling that way. And so when we talk about increasing minimum wage, climate change, I don't know about you all, but it is really hot here right now. And it is really hot here right now. Our electricity grid is starting to crater, and we are paying more because we have inept leadership. Well, being able to have heat, being able to have air, being able to have water is not just a progressive value, it's an American value. And so what we're talking about are things that add to the dignity of Americans. Being able to have a job that takes care of your family. That's something our candidates talk about. Being able to have public education that actually is funded. Our teachers are supported. That's what our candidates talk about. Being able to go out into an atmosphere and you don't feel like you're about to burn up. That's what our candidates are talking about. So we don't have the new positions. Student loan debt. Biden needs to address that. We need to stop hiding around it and pushing the can down the road. We need something about student loan debt. The things we've been talking about, they haven't been solved yet. Criminal justice reform. We all saw George Floyd get murdered on TV. And it is still not resolved where police officers don't have the immunity. They still have that protection. And so the things we've been talking about, we're going to continue talking about them because they have not been solved.
Right. No, I agree. And one of the things I always say that I loved so much about Brand New Congress was that it wasn't specific policies. It was this 21st century Bill of Rights. It's this idea of that we're all entitled to this certain quality of life in a civilization. And the policies to address that are not concrete. Those need to be fluid, need to be able to be. That's where compromises get made, not on what the end result needs to be. Like people having healthcare is a given. People have to have healthcare. But like we can say, should we do one type of system versus another type of system? I mean, yeah, we can negotiate on those things. But I love that about Brand New Congress, that it really is about the principle and not the specific policy. And you talk about what people need versus this policy, that policy, this thing. And that I think is really important. Because the policies are going to change. They're going to change. They're going to have different sponsors, different authors, different things. And so you can't get attached to a particular policy, but you can definitely get attached to a position, you know? Exactly. So I just think that's really important. Yeah.
Exactly. And every city or every area, every congressional district in America is not cookie cutter. So our needs along the Gulf Coast are different from the needs of those on the East Coast or those that are in the Midwest. They're just different, but we need the issues that we're fighting here addressed. We need it. We just need it. Public education is something that needs to be addressed across this country. Student loan debt. We need to free up some people where, our young people are strapped with that student loan debt where it's trillions of dollars. And so there's some things that are across America that everyone needs, but there's some things that are more regional that need to be addressed. And it is the rights that we have as Americans. Everyone is entitled to that. And we want to see that across the board. When we talk about Black America, we want absolute equality. And that's just what we need, because that's our right as an American, is to be able to enjoy all of America like everyone else.
Right. Well, it's, we talk about that this is a country of freedom and we have freedom, but I would argue that if you are strapped by debt and stress and just constant living in desperation, that you're not free. Right. It is not free to live in debt and have that. And when we think about what, Biden could do a debt jubilee and eliminate all student debt, he actually can do that. And that's what's so frustrating, is we're not even talking about something that can't be done. It can be done. They're choosing not to do it. And that's really frustrating. But I wanted to ask you if you've noticed a shift at all since when you started in 18 with BNC in terms of coalescing, if you will, with the Democratic Party. And what I'm talking about is different candidates in different locations. Like for us in Broward, it's close to impossible, like to make any headway in the party apparatus as a progressive. But have you noticed any shifts at all, like nationally, in terms of openings for progressives in the party?
Not necessarily have I, and I'm talking about, I got to say that I haven't been with Brand as the ED of Brand New Congress long enough to see shifts, and we're just now getting candidates launched to where I haven't been talking to someone in this part of the country and that part of the country to just see the different fields across the country. I think the Democratic Party is reckoning with the fact that progressives are not going anywhere. And the progressives demographic is younger and it's more diverse. And that's the voting block that Democrats need.
Yeah.
And so that in itself is pushing that movement. And so this is really a two-party country. You know, it's just, if you want to run as an independent, there's certain, you can't even, like, for example, Act Blue, you've got to be able to be a Democrat to use Act Blue. So you're running as an independent, you might probably find a harder way to be able to raise money online. Because, you know, Act Blue is like our place that we go to, but I've got to be a Democrat for that. And so it's harder running as an independent. And I know people that I personally know that'll just say, you know, I'm no longer a Democrat, but they're not a Republican, but they think more independently. But when you go to vote, it's still Democrat and Republican.
Yeah, I tell people that all the time, and you'll even see, like, I always see in the comments like, oh, I'd never vote for a Democrat, or oh, if you run as a Democrat. I live in Florida. There's no other option. It's that's just what the menu is, and I am supportive of changing the menu, but right now that's the menu. You know, it is what it is, and I mean, there's just not. I mean, hopefully we can get more states have ranked choice voting and maybe start broadening that, but. No, we have to deal with the Democratic Party. There's no way around it to some extent.
Right. There really isn't. I mean, when you really get into the grassroots of our political systems, you really get involved, it's Democrat, Republican. It just really is. We think more independently, but right now we're a two-party system, and we're a two-party system that is so polarized that I get disheartened when I look and say, okay, you know, what we were told is that we have control of the White House, we have control of the House, and we have the control of the Senate. Okay, we can't get the Voting Rights Act passed. So what are we getting done having that trifecta? So do we really have one?
Yeah, and that's a very good point, because as I try to emphasize to people, if you really want to have you know, Jen and I were just talking about before, you know, more of a parliamentary electoral system, you have to first start with something like ranked choice voting. If you are able to pass that, then you can have that conversation. There are so many infrastructural issues that exist. You know, we were talking about the importance of what has transpired in Nevada. I think one of the absolute best candidates by far running for Congress for 22 is Amy Vilela, who ran previously with Brand New Congress and decided to take an election cycle off. And that was probably the best decision she could have made, because now there is an infrastructure in place that may not necessarily aid her in winning a race, but they are going to make sure that there is no unfairness or nefarious behavior taking place, so that when she does run and when there is the election, it's a fair election. Right. And I think that's the thing that I think a lot of people are missing, is this infrastructural component that must be added in addition to candidates who want to run for office. Is that something that is going to be emphasized this time around with Brand New Congress?
In what way?
Regards to if you're a candidate and you're building your team, wherever that may be, the importance of recognizing that everyone who is involved has to be as involved as they can be. One of the things that we emphasize here in Broward, for example, is if you do want Jen to run again, being a precinct committee leader, precinct committee captain, doing things in regards to helping build name recognition is immensely important. So as it's obviously important to have a candidate that people feel inspired by, it's also very important to have a team behind you that is going to do everything in their power to make sure that the election is as fair and as plausible for an upset as it can possibly be.
Exactly. Well, that's part of the grassroots structure, is making sure that because most of our candidates and most progressive candidates start off as unknowns. And so building that name recognition is tough. And when you run in areas such as Florida and Texas that are massive, we don't have dense populations. You're going from city to city, cross counties, because of the gerrymandering to get, to another part of your district. It takes a lot of people. And for us as regular everyday folk, we don't have that kind of amassed wealth to just run huge campaigns or, millions of dollars of a campaign to really go across these big areas. So we're very dependent on grassroots donors, grassroots organization, field teams of volunteers. A lot of things are just volunteer led because it's moved by passion. And it makes our races harder, but it also makes our races ones that have more heart. Because even if the candidate does not win, the conversation has still been started. The talk about progressive values have still been talked about. We look now at what happened on January the 6th. Well, it is like, shh, you won't talk about that. And we all saw what happened at our Capitol, but shh, we don't want to talk about that, especially when you have conservative leadership, such as those that are in Texas. And we have congressional representatives here in Texas who don't want to talk about those kind of things, but they have the advantage because they are incumbents. And give the example, the incumbent that I ran against, he does not communicate with the community. But during the campaign season, when it comes up to election time, he sends out newsletters. Well, these newsletters are paid with public money. And so it's during campaign time, it's during election season, and that's when they send out mail. And that's nothing more than campaign mail that the public is paying for. It's just not shown as that.
We're speaking with Adrienne Bell, Executive Director of Brand New Congress. Gerrymandering is a very big part of the problem. It's pretty bad here in Florida, but I've seen how some of the lines are drawn in Texas. That is absolutely incredible. Is there sort of like a science, if you will, in terms of, when you are scouting out a candidate and figuring, if they are, the right fit for Brand New Congress, do you look at electoral viability as one of the things in terms of, will they be able to at least, there's no guarantee you're going to win. Obviously the odds are long, but do you at least look at, the district lines, the name recognition, things like that, in terms of candidates that you are now bringing onto the slate, in terms of the natural evolution of the organization?
We look at candidates that are a good fit for America, not just a good fit for BNC. We look for candidates that already have the values, progressive values that America needs. Looking at areas where it's not going to be just running against a Democratic incumbent who may not possess all of the progressive values they want. Such Medicare for all seems to be like a divider between people. But it's looking at the holistic of, we don't want to just trade out Democrats, trade Democrats. We want to uproot some Republicans. And we know it's more difficult in R plus districts. Like I think you mentioned, well, the one you mentioned, like R plus a number too high to where you go like, it just kind of blows your mind. But we've got to, one thing that we've seen is that we got to run candidates against them. Now, are we going to endorse every candidate that runs against a Republican? We can't. But we need to run against Republicans. And it can be an R37. If you're a Democrat and you want to run. Because they'll just walk into office and they have no competition. But we look, let me get back to what we're looking at. We look holistically at the entirety of the United States. Can we get a candidate in Colorado? Is there progressive running in Colorado? It would be nice. I don't know. It'd be nice having candidates that in Colorado, candidates in New York, candidate in Texas, candidate in California, candidate in Montana, just across the board, so that U.S. Congress will begin looking like America, and it'll share values that are across America. So we look for a good fit for America, not just for brand new Congress.
I think you're absolutely right. I do think that there needs to be a push with the GOP. I think that there is a very big untapped market. I think it has just more to do with being non-corporate, even nonpartisan to some degree. You know, for example, Marjorie Taylor Greene is somebody that a lot of people are going to circle. But again, you know, her district is a plus 27R. Why would you not try to field a non-corporate GOP? And again, it's not a question of whether that person is not going to look like that district or represent the values of that district, but why not have somebody who is not going to kowtow to corporate special interests and is instead going to be looking out for the best interests of the people who live there? The truth is, we do share a lot of common values with the people on the other side, if you will. It just depends on the issue. Very often it's the wedge issues that divide us, but the primary issues seem to be the ones that we really agree upon. And there's always going to be, you know, the worst of the worst representatives. I mean, we see them on all sides. I mean, you're in a part of the state that's very close to where Dan Crenshaw represents, for example. You know, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the people in the district reflect that of what he does. And I think that's something that is possible to change. You know, there isn't a organization that is attempting to bring some sense back to the GOP. But I think having that type of attitude could really go a long way. Jen, what do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, and I also think that we've talked about this before, that campaigns have their own purpose, not just the point of electing somebody, because it's part of creating a movement in a location, and it has to keep being built upon every single year. It can't just be during election time. So the campaign is its own entity. Like, I don't think it really matters whether it's a Democrat or Republican district. I mean, and I agree with Christina, because that is sort of a talking point that the establishment uses, or that unions use, or organizations use, as to whether or not to support somebody. But it's a chicken and an egg thing. And the bottom line is, if you want to have progressive movement, you need to have candidates pushing it in different locations. So, I mean, to me, regardless of whether it's red or blue, it's a worthwhile venture to promote the topics and the issues. So, I mean, that's just my take on the campaigns in general.
I agree. One of the reasons that I ran back to back, because when you campaign and that season is over, man, you're tired. Tired is not even the word.
Yeah.
You've given up 2 years of your life, and you've given a lot. And I'm not saying that you do it with regret. I'm just giving the reality of it. You have just gone, and then election is over, and just everything just starts draining. But I had a voter who told me that I gave her hope. And we're talking about a conservative area, and to hear, and then it was more than just her to say, you gave me hope, because they feel like their voices don't matter, they don't count, and it's like they go vote, but why? You know, because nothing's going to change, we'll have anyone to vote for, kind of thing. But to know that when we run, we give someone hope that we are thinking about them. We care that they eliminated the federal unemployment bonus, the $300. We care that they have to make it on a few $100s a week. We really care that you don't have clean water. We really care when a hurricane comes through that your electricity is out, you have no food, and FEMA is not on the way. We really care about those things. And it gives people some inspiration to keep hanging on because, one day, some change is coming. It may happen in this one area, and it may take us 2 more years. Like you said, in 2022, we may have 3 new progressive leaders on the Hill. I'm hoping there are 3 new progressive leaders that have taken out some Republicans. So we actually are adding to the numbers and not just trading a Democrat for Democrat, but we've got new voices or new people that speak like us, regular working Americans. I am a second grade in a public school. And so we need people who know what it feels like when you talk to our children who have gone through COVID, who all of a sudden had to shift to virtual learning, and teachers had to just shift to virtual teaching and didn't know what to do, and you couldn't come together to learn. It's tough. And so our public education, our education system has gone through an upheaval. It's going to take us years, and it's going to cost us economically, and we've got to look at that and address it. But we need candidates who have been a part of education who can make a difference, not those who haven't been in a school since they graduated, and then it was a private school. We got to have some real champions, is all I'm saying, that understands hardworking people.
If you would like to nominate a candidate to be a part of Brand New Congress, Adrienne, where can they go if they would like to potentially encourage somebody to run?
Go to brandnewcongress.org, and nominations are still being taken. You can also go to our Facebook page at Brand New Congress, and you can nominate. You can go on Twitter, where we have a form to fill out so you can give us information about the candidate, and we will reach out to them and talk to them.
You hear that, Kevin? You hear that out there?
you can just nominate. We are looking for candidates that are looking to work for America.
Yeah, we're definitely one of the things about generational change is that we're always looking to pay it forward. It's very important that you do. It's one of those, as you said at the very beginning, there is sort of this, jockeying for position, elbowing that goes on where, people want to get credit. They don't want to necessarily share the pie. Now, the only way we're going to get there is if we recognize that this is a collective effort. We all have to play our part. We all have to do what we can. It is going to take time. And you know what? It may not seem that monumental, but believe me, if Bernie is able to convince Joe to get this bill signed that includes lowering the Medicare age to 60 and including vision, dental, and hearing, that's a big victory.
Yes, it is.
It adds 17 million more people to universal health care, and it adds one of the most underrated caveats to why the current Medicare system is not the type of system that reflects the rest of the world. Not having dental, vision, and hearing is huge. Mental health obviously should be included, but that's a fight for another day that we're still going to be pursuing. But I do think that change is happening. I just beg people to, stick with it, hang in there. It's going to come. It's not happening anywhere near as fast as we'd like it to. But, a great example of that, Adrienne, is, and this is one of the last things we'll wind down with. Jen gives me crap about it, but, I really was a very close observer of what was taking place in New York. And even though it looks like it's going to be a very conservative mayor, a lot of down ballot wins happened on the non-corporate progressive side, all throughout the city. Wow. And of course, the biggest one of them all was India Walton winning the mayoral race in Buffalo, the first socialist senator in 60 years, in 2 generations. And
Mayor.
Oh, mayor, excuse me, mayor. I'm getting ahead of myself. But the reason why that victory is so important, because Buffalo is the second biggest city in New York State.
Right.
you now have somebody who is going to be an avid champion for not only Medicare for all, but the New York Health Act. And if there's going to be an opportunity, potentially, again, not getting ahead of myself, but let's just say, hypothetically speaking, that AOC decides that she wants to run for the Senate in a few years, well, it's not going to hurt if she has somebody like that in the state. Everything takes time, but you build your pieces, if you will, on the chessboard. And that was even though it would have been much nicer to have a progressive mayor, it really was a great night overall for progressives. And if you're looking for that, that is something to hang your hat on. And then obviously the next thing we need to do is get Nina Turner into Congress. And then on we go in terms of these victories. I'd like to give you the floor for a closing statement, if you will, about Brand New Congress. And obviously we want people to support the organization. Did tremendous help for Jen. A lot of amazing people. Nikki, Jennifer, I could go on and on with all the wonderful people that have assisted, Jen along the way. Like I said, great organization to support, brandnewcongress.org. But Adrienne, please, the floor is yours. Tell people again why they should be assisting the organization.
Well, we need progressives, and we need progressive champions. We need progressive organizations that help train and support our candidates. A lot of our progressive candidates are new. They're brand new, and they have not run campaigns before. And we need women in office. And so we train and support and talk with candidates, and we, like I say, we want to tell their story, because their stories are powerful, because they're stories of hardworking people who weren't born with that silver spoon, and they are running for Congress with courage, or they're running for Congress scared, but they're running for Congress. And so we need your help also as we continue building our organization, as we continue to strive for excellence, as we continue to bring to the halls of Congress champions. And that's what America needs for our children, for our children's children, and for our future. So visit us at brandnewcongress.org. Nominate someone that shares progressive values that you want us to be to look at. And while you're there, you can also donate to help our organization grow, because we may not take corporate money, but money is still needed in this movement. And so thank you so much for allowing me time to just chat. And
thank you so much for coming on. It's great to see you. And I was so pleased to see you in charge of Brand New Congress. It's like when an alumni comes back as the principal of the school. It's like there's something very satisfying about that.
Yeah, I tell you, no one knows about campaigns, but someone who ran for office. There's something different about it. So I think it's a good fit. And
Thank you.
I'm really thankful for y'all, and much success, and continue speaking power. Truth to power is what we need.
Brand New Congress is definitely in good hands with you, Adrienne. Brandnewcongress.org. Check it out, Adrienne.
And
Bell,
you guys seriously support, because thank you, Adrienne.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you so much.
We'll see you soon.
All right. Bye.
I mean,
this is something that, we always are very, very heavy preaching on local involvement and getting involved locally and all that. But for people who might not have somebody locally that they're backing, a great way to support candidates is to support Brand New Congress, because when their candidates need phone bankers, when their candidates need help, you are part of that resource. And it could be a bunch of different things. If you happen to be a graphic arts person, if you're a music person, you can actually donate services to different candidates that need all sorts of things. So check out Brand New Congress. They can always use help. Support your progressives.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.